The restaurant's soft lighting, the low hum of conversation, the carefully chosen new dress. It all faded into a blur as Randy's words slammed into me. See? Told you she'd still be here. Like a pathetic puppy. My boyfriend of 3 years, the man I just paid off a nearly $12,000 car loan for, had arrived 2 hours late to our anniversary dinner with his friends and was now publicly humiliating me. Randy and I had met 3 years prior, thanks to a literal flood in my apartment. My upstairs neighbor had left their bathtub running all weekend. Who even does that? And I was crashing in my brother's place while waiting for repairs. Randy was the plumber assigned to fix everything. Looking back, he kept finding new problems every time he came by, which I now realize was probably just his way of seeing me more. Back then, I thought it was sweet, but now I can't help but wonder if he deliberately messed with my pipes. Regardless, I remember how easy it was to talk to him, which was rare for me because I'm usually incredibly awkward around new people. Fast forward to year 1, and things were pretty great. We moved in together after 8 months. A little too fast, I know, but his lease was ending, and financially it just made sense. Randy worked as a plumber, but he constantly struggled with consistent income. He'd either get let go for showing up late, or he'd quit because his bosses were idiots who didn't appreciate his skills. Red flag number 1, I completely ignored. Over the years, Randy would send me these long, furious voice messages on Telegram about his bosses. He'd call them brainless monkeys, mock their accents, or how they dressed. He'd rant about how stupid they were, how he was carrying the entire company, but getting zero recognition. And I, for some reason, would save these messages in my favorites folder, sometimes even downloading them when they were particularly nasty. I'm still not sure why I kept them. Maybe subconsciously, I knew they'd matter someday. He did the same thing with his parents, especially when they wouldn't loan him money. He'd send these awful voice messages calling his dad a pathetic excuse for a man and his mom a sheep who couldn't think for herself. One time, after they refused to help with his car payment, he sent a 5-minute rant about how they were failures who never accomplished anything, and how he was embarrassed to be related to such losers. I remember feeling so uncomfortable listening to them, but I just added them to my favorites folder without really thinking. By year 2, I was basically covering most of our expenses. My job isn't amazing, but it's stable, and I kept telling myself, relationships are about balance. Sometimes one person carries more weight until the other gets on their feet. Randy always promised things would turn around soon, that he just needed one good opportunity, and everything would change. 6 months ago, Randy's car broke down, a 2015 Mustang that was way beyond what he could afford. He was devastated because it was his dream car, and he needed reliable transportation for work. I, stupidly, offered to help with the payment since it was affecting his ability to keep jobs. I ended up taking over the entire loan, $386 per month. That's a lot for me. I guess I just wanted to be supportive and thought maybe this would be the thing that helped him get stable. Looking back, it seems so obvious, but in the moment, it felt like I was helping us both. We lived together, shared expenses, and without transportation, he couldn't work consistently. Plus, he was super emotional about potentially losing his baby. Last night was our 3-year anniversary. I had just made the final payment on his car last week, which was a huge financial stretch for me. I made reservations at this nice restaurant downtown that we'd always talked about trying, but could never afford. Translation: I couldn't afford to treat us both. I spent ages getting ready. New dress, hair done, the whole 9 yards. I arrived at 7 p.m. for our reservation. Randy texted that he was running late and asked me to go ahead and get seated. By 7:30, I texted 3 times with no response. By 8 p.m., I called twice straight to voicemail. The waitress kept giving me these pitying looks, asking if I wanted to order or perhaps reschedule. I was so embarrassed but kept saying he's just running late, traffic probably, while checking my phone every 2 minutes. At 8:45, yes, I've been sitting alone for almost 2 hours. I was about to give up when Randy finally walked in. Not alone. He was with 4 of his friends. This wasn't a miscommunication. He'd never mentioned anyone else. They all came over to my table, laughing and obviously already buzzed. And then, I still can't believe this happened. Randy turns to his friends and says, loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "See? Told you she'd still be here." Like a pathetic puppy. 2 hours, and she didn't leave. They all burst out laughing. One of his friends, Jake, who I've always thought was a total jerk, goes, "Damn, you weren't kidding. She's trained good." More laughter. Randy then plops down next to me, squeezes my cheeks between his fingers like I'm a child, and says, "This is why she's the best. Most chicks would have stormed out, but my C, she pays my bills and waits around like a good girl." Then he looked at me with this disgusting smirk and said, "Ah, did you think this was going to be some romantic dinner? That's adorable. We have a poker game after this. I just needed to make sure you were good for the next payment first." When I didn't respond, he grabbed my chin roughly and turned my face toward him, saying hello. Earth to sea. God, you're pathetic sometimes. Say something, or are you just going to sit there looking like a sad puppy? His friends thought this was hilarious. I literally couldn't breathe. 3 years together. I had just dropped nearly $12K paying off his car. And this is what he thought of me. This is what he told his friends about me. That I was some pathetic doormat he could treat however he wanted. The server came over, looking super uncomfortable, and asked if we were ready to order. I remember smiling somehow and saying, "Actually, I'd like another glass of wine first." Randy and his friends ordered a bunch of expensive appetizers and drinks, still making occasional jokes about my patience, and how lucky Randy was to have found someone so understanding. Randy then pointed at me and told the server, "Don't worry about bringing her food, though. She's watching her figure. Another few pounds, and we need a bigger table." Everyone laughed while I sat there, completely humiliated. After my wine arrived, I took a long sip, placed it down carefully, and said I needed to use the restroom. Randy barely acknowledged me. He was busy entertaining his friends with some story about his boss being an idiot. In the bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror for a solid 5 minutes. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry yet. I was just done. 3 years of making excuses for him. 3 years of carrying us financially. 3 years of ignoring red flags. And this is what he really thought of me. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to cry or yell or throw drinks. No, Randy deserved something much more calculated. I opened Telegram and scrolled through all those saved voice messages from Randy. The ones where he trashed his boss as incompetent and fraudulent, and his parents as pathetic failures. I had dozens of them saved in my favorites folder, some even downloaded to my phone. I texted my friend Emma, who lives nearby, and asked if she could pick me up in 10 minutes. Then I went back to the table, smiled at everyone, and excused myself again, saying I needed to make a quick call about a work emergency. As I walked out, I stopped by the server and quietly paid for my wines, and only my wines on my card. I told her the gentleman would be covering the rest of the bill. Then I walked out, got into Emma's car, and blocked Randy's number before he could even realize I was gone. But here's the thing. I didn't just block his number. I had a plan forming. See, over the years, I'd helped Randy with countless tech issues. I had access to his email, his cloud accounts, his banking app, to make those car payments, and even his social media. And let's just say I know exactly how information can be shared most efficiently. That was just last night. This morning, I woke up to 78 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize, his friends probably, and the most satisfying string of panic texts from Randy's work phone begging me to please talk to him, saying it was just a joke and asking, "What did you do? What did I do?" Well, that's a story for today because it all spiraled pretty fast. When Emma picked me up from the restaurant, I was in this weird, calm state. I wasn't even crying, which is not normal for me. I literally tear up at dog food commercials. I think I was just in shock. Emma kept asking if I was okay. And I remember just staring out the window, thinking about all those voice messages. When we got to her apartment, I finally broke down, ugly crying, mascara everywhere, the whole thing. Emma just sat with me, brought ice cream, cookie dough, my absolute fave, and let me vent for like 2 hours straight. She didn't even check her phone once, which is basically friendship goals. Around midnight, my phone started blowing up with texts from Randy. At first, they were angry like, "Where TF did you go?" And, "You seriously ditched me with the bill?" Then they switched to this fake concern. "Are you okay? And just let me know you're safe." By 1 a.m., he was sending these long paragraph texts about how it was just a joke and how I was overreacting, classic gaslighting BS. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I made a list. I'm a notorious list maker, LOL, of all the accounts I had access to. His email, his Instagram, his iCloud, his Spotify, his banking app, our shared Netflix. As I was writing this list, I realized how completely insane it was that he had given me access to basically his entire digital life, but also gave me this weird sense of power. For the first time in our relationship, I felt like I had control over something. By the way, if you're still with me, make sure to hit subscribe. More unbelievable stories are coming. The next morning, after maybe 3 hours of sleep, I started my plan. First step was dealing with the car. I logged into his banking app and saw that the payment I had made last week was still processing. It hadn't fully cleared yet. I immediately called the bank and explained that I needed to cancel a payment due to fraud. The customer service person was super nice. When I explained that I had been manipulated into making payments for someone else's vehicle, they asked for documentation. So I sent screenshots of text conversations where Randy had basically admitted the car was solely his, not mine. I also mentioned that I had voice recordings of him bragging to friends about how I was paying for his car, which I actually did have from one of those Telegram voice messages. The bank rep put me on hold for what felt like forever, then came back and said they would reverse the payment while they investigated. While dealing with the bank stuff, Randy called like 15 times. I sent him to voicemail every time. He left these increasingly desperate messages, first angry, then apologetic, then back to angry. In one voicemail, he actually said, "You're overreacting to a stupid joke and ruining our anniversary." Our anniversary? The one where he showed up 2 hours late with his friends and humiliated me? That anniversary? LOL. Around noon, I decided to check some of his other accounts. I wasn't planning to do anything malicious, but I was curious if there was anything else I should know about. Y'all, I found everything. There were dozens of SMS between Randy and his friends planning the whole restaurant thing. They had been discussing it for days. One SMS from Jake, his jerk friend, said, "Can't wait to see her face when you tell her it's not actually an anniversary dinner, LOL." Randy replied with, "She'll probably just sit there and take it like always." But wait, it gets worse. As I kept scrolling, I found emails with some girl named Amber from his work, flirty emails with pictures dating back months. Nothing explicitly saying they were hooking up, but definitely crossing lines. One message from just last week had the subject line, "After work," with just a winky face emoji in the body. At this point, I was shaking. 3 years of my life, thousands of dollars, all the support and patience I had given him, and this is how he repaid me. I took a break and made some coffee, spilled it everywhere because my hands were literally shaking. Emma had gone to work, but kept texting to check on me. I sent her a quick, "I'm fine," text and went back to my investigation. Next, I opened his Google Drive through his email. He had a folder called Voice Notes where he kept recordings of calls and conversations, mostly work stuff. But then I found a recording from 3 months ago of him and Jake laughing about how I was basically his sugar mama and how he was just keeping me around until something better came along. I had given him everything, and he had been laughing behind my back the entire time. So I made another list. Send voice clips to his boss, the ones where he calls him an incompetent idiot. Send voice clips to his parents, where he calls them failures and pathetic. Cancel all shared subscriptions. Pack up his stuff. Change all my passwords and lock him out of my accounts. The voice messages were easy. I had them all saved in my Telegram favorites folder. Some I had even downloaded to my phone because they were so shocking at the time. I created a new Telegram account using a temporary number, then sent the clips of Randy trashing his boss to his boss. I found his contact info in Randy's email. He had emailed his resume to him recently. I did the same with his parents, sending them the clips where he called them pathetic failures and mocked them for not being successful enough. I didn't add any commentary, just sent the clips with a simple message. Thought you should hear how Randy talks about you when you're not around. Next, I logged into all our shared accounts, Netflix, Spotify, etc., and either changed the passwords or canceled them entirely. It felt so good to systematically remove him from my digital life. Then came the hard part, packing his stuff. Randy had been living with me for over 2 years, so he had a lot of things at my place. I started with his clothes, stuffing them into garbage bags, not even folding them, which felt rebellious since I always folded his laundry. I filled 7 bags just with clothes and shoes. I was halfway through the bathroom stuff when my doorbell rang. My heart literally stopped. I peeked through the peephole, and it was Randy. He was standing there, looking all sad, with flowers in his hand. Flowers. Like that would fix anything. I didn't answer. I backed away from the door and sat on the floor of my hallway, trying not to make any noise. He rang again and again, then started knocking, then calling my phone, which I had on silent. Finally, he started yelling through the door about how I was being childish and needed to talk like adults. After about 20 minutes of this, one of my neighbors must have threatened to call building security because he finally left, but not before sliding a note under my door that said, "We need to talk. I'm sorry about last night. It was supposed to be a joke. Please call me." A joke? Being publicly humiliated and degraded by the person who's supposed to love you is not a joke. I went back to packing his stuff with renewed determination. By 6 p.m., I had everything of his in garbage bags by the door, 15 bags total. 3 years of relationship reduced to 15 garbage bags. That's when my phone pinged with an email notification. It was from the bank. They had approved the payment reversal. The money was being returned to my account within 3 to 5 business days. I literally did a happy dance in my living room. Almost immediately after, I got a frantic text from Randy. "Why is there a tow truck in my apartment? What did you do to my car?" I didn't respond, but I did smile a lot. Around 8 p.m., my phone basically exploded with notifications. Turns out, Randy's boss had received the voice clips and immediately called him in for a meeting. From a string of increasingly desperate texts Randy sent me, it didn't go well. Apparently, his boss had been suspicious about some work issues for a while, and hearing Randy call him an incompetent idiot who couldn't find his ass with both hands was the last straw. Randy was put on probation pending further review. His parents also received their clips and called him in tears, asking why he would say such horrible things about them. According to his texts, his mom was hysterical and his dad wouldn't even speak to him. By 10 p.m., Randy was sending me these long, rambling texts about how I had ruined his life and how one bad joke didn't justify what I had done. He switched between begging for forgiveness and threatening me with legal action. I saved all the texts but didn't respond to any of them. I slept at Emma's again that night because I was honestly a little scared he might show up drunk or something. But in the morning, I felt lighter, like I had finally stood up for myself after years of letting him walk all over me. The next step was figuring out what to do with all his stuff. I couldn't keep 15 garbage bags in my apartment, and I definitely didn't want to see him to give them back. That's when Emma suggested something that made me gasp. What if we just took it to the dump? It seemed extreme. Even after everything, I wasn't sure I could just throw away all his possessions. But then I remembered the emails, the planned humiliation, the cheating, the 3 years of supporting him while he laughed behind my back. So this morning, Emma borrowed her brother's truck, and we loaded up all 15 bags. I checked through them one last time to make sure there wasn't anything super important like birth certificates or irreplaceable family items. I'm not a monster. Then we drove to the local dump, and well, we dumped it. I'm not going to lie. Watching the garbage truck compact all his designer clothes and stupid video game collectibles was surprisingly therapeutic. As we were driving back, Randy called from a number I didn't recognize. I'm guessing he borrowed a phone since I had blocked his. I didn't answer, but he left a message saying his car had been repossessed and he needed to get his stuff from my place to at least have something to wear to work tomorrow. Too late, Randy. Too late. I'm back in my apartment now. It feels weirdly empty without all his things, but also peaceful. I changed all the locks today. My landlord was super understanding when I explained the situation. I know some people might think what I did was extreme, but after 3 years of putting him first and being treated like a doormat, it felt like exactly what he deserved. The fallout continued. His friend Jake blew up my phone with angry messages, and apparently Amber from work was confused about why Randy was suddenly being so cold to her. The dominoes were still falling. I confirmed with a friend who knows legal stuff that the car was in his name, and my payments were considered gifts, so I was never legally responsible for it. Plus, I kept all the really important documents I found. I'm not that petty, LOL. The day after the dump trip, I woke to a weird scratching sound at my door. It was Randy, sliding notes under, looking completely wrecked. Please talk to me. I need my stuff for work. My boss is going to fire me. My parents won't talk to me. My car is gone. I'm sleeping in Jake's car. Part of me felt a tiny bit bad for about 3 seconds. Then I remembered sitting alone in that restaurant, and all sympathy vanished. I quietly collected the notes, evidence just in case. Later, his friend Jake showed up, trying to gaslight me, claiming he wasn't at the restaurant. I checked my doorbell cam and realized he'd been filming the whole time, trying to trick me. Sneaky jerk. The car payment refund processed quickly. At Emma's, we systematically made a timeline of events. For a moment, I wondered if I'd gone too far, but then Emma pulled up screenshots of Randy's emails planning my humiliation. Nope, not even close. I checked Randy's Instagram. His latest post was a rambling apology about mistakes. His friends were confused. Amber commented, "Call me," and his cousin asked why he wasn't answering Grandma's calls. Then a mutual friend, Damon, texted me. Randy had been telling everyone I'd hacked his accounts and stolen from him. I called Damon immediately and told him everything. The 2-hour wait, the public humiliation, the emails, the voice messages, the sugar mama recording. Damon was stunned. Randy had been spinning stories about me for months, portraying me as clingy and unstable. Damon apologized and asked if he could tell the others the truth. I said he could. I finally returned to my apartment with Emma. More angry notes under the door. "You're ruining my life," and "I know what you did with my stuff." Yeah, I took it to the dump. Not exactly a secret. I deep cleaned, rearranged furniture, threw out old sheets, hung up art Randy thought was too girly. My apartment was becoming mine again. A new development came from Randy's HR department, investigating his professional conduct. I sent them 3 of the worst voice messages where he trashed his boss and admitted to slacking off. His Instagram later had a cryptic post about unemployment in America. Draw your own conclusions. Then I literally ran into Randy's mom at the grocery store. She thanked me for opening her eyes. She and Randy's dad had been financially supporting him for years, unknowingly. The car I thought I was paying off? They put the down payment on it and co-signed the loan. Randy had been taking money from both of us. She apologized, genuinely heartbroken. I didn't have the heart to tell her about Amber or the humiliation plan. Some things parents just don't need to know. A package was waiting at my door when I got home, a Starbucks gift card and a thank you note from my neighbor. Apparently, Randy would blast music and had been rude to others. Who knew? Last night, exactly 1 week after the restaurant incident, I changed all my social media to private and blocked Randy's new accounts. He'd created 3 since I blocked his originals. I even changed my phone number for peace of mind. And then this morning, drum roll please, I got a letter from the car loan company confirming the loan had been terminated and the vehicle repossessed. They included photos of the car being towed from outside Jake's apartment, where Randy was crashing. The letter stated that due to the evidence of fraudulent misrepresentation, they wouldn't be pursuing any further action against me. The loan was Randy's problem now. Emma called to check on me and asked if I felt bad about any of it. I thought about it for a minute and realized I don't. Not even a little bit. Randy spent 3 years taking everything he could from me. My money, my time, my self-esteem. All I did was show everyone who he really is, using his own words and actions. So what's next? I've started putting the car payment money into a savings account instead, and it's adding up. I'm considering adopting a cat from the local shelter, something Randy would never allow, because he claimed to be allergic. He wasn't. I once found antihistamines in his gym bag that he'd take before visiting his cat-owning parents. As for Randy, 6 months later, I've heard through mutual friends and his mom that he lost his job completely. Not just because of the voice messages, but because he kept showing up late and had a meltdown in a meeting. He moved back in with his parents for a while, but that didn't last. He kept breaking their house rules, coming home drunk, not helping, being rude. They gave him an ultimatum: get a job and contribute or move out. He chose to move out and is now apparently crashing on various friends' couches, though his friend's circle has shrunk dramatically. His car was sold at auction for less than what was still owed on it, so he still has to make payments on a car he doesn't even have anymore. His own lawyer told him he had no case against me since my payments were considered gifts, and I had evidence of his fraud. The girl from his work, Amber, is now apparently his girlfriend, but from what I've heard, it's super toxic. She found out he was talking to other girls on Tinder, but took him back anyway. They've broken up and gotten back together like 4 times already. Poor girl is where I was 3 years ago, and I genuinely hope she figures it out faster than I did. Oh, and the weirdest part, 3 months ago, Randy's brother reached out to me on Instagram. We'd only met like twice, so it was super random. He apologized for his brother's behavior and then asked me out. I was like, "Sir, this is not appropriate. LOL. I politely declined and blocked him too. Some people have zero self-awareness, I swear. I added up approximately how much I spent on Randy over our 3 years together. Between the car payments, covering rent when he was between jobs, paying for most of our dates, and various loans that were never repaid, it came to over $30,000. That's a down payment on a house. I could have traveled the world. I could have paid off my student loans. Instead, I funded the lifestyle of someone who called me a pathetic puppy to my face. My closure came when I walked out of that restaurant 6 months ago. Everything since then has just been confirmation that I made the right choice. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And if they call you a pathetic puppy, take their car and dump their stuff at the local landfill. It's just a joke mostly. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to deal with a situation like this? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.